Hello and welcome back to another episode of Purpose Through Fitness, a community designed to encourage you to live a more positive, happy, and healthy lifestyle. We are going to uncover secrets of the body, the mind, and the spirit to help put you in the best position possible to live a more purposeful life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Purpose Through Fitness. I'm excited to welcome my next guest, Dillon Mitchell. He is an electrical engineer, founder of the Cowabunga Studios, entrepreneur, and podcast host of The Construction Corner. Dillon, thank you so much for being here today.
Kevin, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, my friend. So let's jump right into this here. Let my listeners know a little background on yourself. What is it exactly that you do? And what is some of the projects that you're currently working on?
Sure. The best way to probably describe who I am is professional electrical engineer. That's what I went to school for and kind of what I built my life around. And why I'm here today, and we'll get into, is I'm also an ultra runner. Done big ultras as well as Ironman. So for those of you in the know, an Ironman is 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile marathon, all within 17 hours. So for me, I've come from, overweight, or let's say a good in shape, 170 pounds in high school, to gaining 40 pounds in college. And really for me, I, lost my way through sports. I played soccer primarily growing up. So a lot of running, super active, and kind of lost that through college. Coming out on the other side, I was starting to rock climb and go to the gym. But the big catalyst for me, and what kind of started me on my fitness journey, was went over to a buddy's house shortly after turning 21, after college, and we were throwing the football around, drinking some beers, and it was just like one of those moments you're like, oh, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And, we've all had that at some point in our life. And you're just like, and 10 minutes later, I'm like wheezing, wanting water, not the beer that I was drinking. And you're just like, how is this possible? So it started me down a path of, all right, I need to go find a gym. Found a YMCA that had a rock wall on it since I was already rock climbing. Figured, hey, this is perfect. Go to the gym. Figured it out from there. Started rock climbing with it was a group of women that were in their 40s. Here I am, 21-year-old kid, and they're in their 40s. They'd already done multiple marathons, but they invited me on a 8-mile run at 7 o'clock Saturday morning. It's like, sure, no problem. I've done this once before. We'll give it a shot. And that day I showed up, basketball shorts, cotton underwear, which any of you that have run, it's a total no-no, and a cotton T-shirt, and like a 20-ounce Gatorade for an 8-mile run. So it's going to be like an hour and a half. And not prepared. And I really knew that I was not prepared the next day going down the steps from my apartment. So any of you done any distance running, you know that your hamstrings and quads, just up is okay, down's painful. And that started me on my journey. So that was in October of 2011, 2012. I did 2 marathons that year, the Kentucky Derby Marathon in Chicago. And then a year after that, I did my first Ironman in Louisville, Kentucky. So I went from basically 22 months from like, what am I doing with my life, to Ironman.
Wow, that's incredible. I got to ask you, what were the thoughts and feelings you had on your first marathon?
There was a lot of, why am I out here? What's happening? At the first marathon, I didn't know what I needed to know about nutrition. I didn't need to know, my electrolytes were all screwed up. I didn't have the right shoes. I'd gotten a tech shirt and shorts, so that was okay. And really, I walked probably from mile 17 to 26. I think an 85-year-old that has one of those 50 marathons, 50 states shirts passed me. And I'm like, really, what am I doing with my life? So it was just I just have to get through this. There's no quit, but this hurts. My calves are all messed up. My knees hurt. Just why. But I'd already signed up for Chicago, so I knew I was already going to run another marathon.
Interesting. Yeah, the reason I ask that is because it seems a lot of people I speak to who have gone on a similar path to you, and I'm in the very infant stages of this myself. It seems when you run your first marathon, you go through that roller coaster ride of emotions. And I tell people, I wrote an article not that long ago about this, where it was around like mile 18, 19, I ended up, I was so beat at that point. And I'll be honest, I did not do the proper training leading up to the marathon. I thought, I can do a 6-mile run. Sure, I can do 26 because that's how my logic worked. But around mile 18, 19, somewhere in there, I had no lateral movement. I was already beat. I was already tired. And we had to step up onto this curb. So I stepped up. I ended up tweaking my knee. Knee started swelling up. And I thought, this is it. I'm done. So I started hobbling a little bit. And it was probably another 2.5 miles after that of hobbling on my knee that all of a sudden in my mind, I went from this is painful, why did I do this, to this is actually a lot of fun. And it was just this complete, utter mindset shift for me where I said, I don't know why, but I'm enjoying the pain. And it's been ever since that point that I've really been curious about the human potential and just how far we can actually push ourselves, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. So that's why I always ask on the first marathon if anybody else has gone through that same type of experience.
It doesn't end. I mean, for every race that I've done, you're going to hit a point in there where you're going to ask, what am I doing here? Why did I decide to do this? And it's happened most every race, not so much on a marathon anymore, but definitely in the ultras. And even like the harder, like 50Ks that I've done, it's just like, wow, this is rough, and you got like still a 4-mile trek back to the starting line, especially because a lot of like the ultras are in remote dirt tracks, there's no one around. So if you want to get rescued, you literally have to just continue. There's no
other option.
no one's coming to get you.
Interesting. So speaking of the ultra marathons, what has been, I'll do a 2-part question here. What has been the favorite one that you've done so far? And what has been the toughest one that you've done?
Good question. Probably my favorite has to be my first ultra. So I jumped from marathon to 50 miles. That was my leap. I didn't go into 50Ks or anything less than that. I did a 50 miler, and the first one I did was Leadville. And at the time I was living in Indianapolis, so I'm like at 300 feet. And then Leadville is at 10,000 feet or 10,200. And then you climb for the 50 miler, you climb to 12,000 and kind of hop around, but you're not ever below 10. And I think the gain on that course is like 8,000, 8,500 feet, something like that. So Leadville 100 is one of the oldest 100-mile races, and then they've introduced others over the years. And that's probably one of my favorites in that, is the first one that I tackled, the first one that I did, and like I wasn't living at elevation. I did a lot of training leading up to that. I think I ran 4 marathons leading up to it, 2 of which were like back-to-back weekends. And I PR'd, I think, each one of those. So for me, like that was just the best race. The views are incredible. The just prestige of Leadville is amazing to have it that old. It's a literal shotgun start, and you climb up, a 200-foot hill to start the race. There's a lot of crazy stuff like that through Leadville. So look it up if you don't know Leadville, but that's one of the kind of iconic races.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just starting to get into this myself, which actually this will be the first time I'm breaking the news in any kind of public manner here, but I've decided next year I am actually going to do my first 100-mile race. So I'm making the leap from marathon to 100 miles. I don't know if I'm really going to regret that or not, but I feel that a year of training, I can push myself to get there.
So all right. So then the hardest race, because this will lead right into where you're going on that 100, is I've signed up for 2 races, and these are the only 2s I've quote DNF'd. I went for 100 twice, last year, since really all the races got canceled this year. But one was in April of last year at Page, Arizona. So it was Antelope Canyon was the race. I made it through 62 miles, and then the night just absolutely got to me. You run on a rim trail, and I thought I was going to fall off. My light was dying, and I wasn't in the right mind to change the batteries or get a new light or any of that stuff. So I was just like, all right, I'm done. 16 and a half hours in, I did 62 miles. So it's 100K, not 100 miles. And then, so that was tough. And then I did another one in October of last year where it was, again, a 100-mile race at Lake Tahoe. And so 2 50-mile loops, you climb 12,000 feet on each loop, 11 or 12,000. And you go from, I think the base elevation 6,000, you climb to 9.2. So, I mean, it's rough, and on the Tahoe Rim Trail. And I mean, I had a rough day. There were some points throughout where I was just beaten, and then I found myself. And really the last 10 miles, 5 to 10 miles, I met up with a guy, and 2-3 of us ran together that last 5. I brought everybody in, was kind of the spirit animal, if you will, of the group, talking and just like being positive, and let's take this in together. The thing that I found, and so once we get back to the finish line, I knew I had to go out for another 50 miles. I was not feeling super awesome at that point. And so in Lake Tahoe, you're in the middle of nowhere effectively. And I knew I was going to climb up a ski hill. The first 10 miles was going to be like 5,000 feet of gain. And just, I was not ready to go again. So the biggest thing I could say for a 100-mile, and I have not conquered it, so this is just what I've found, is 1, you better be prepared for the night. And 2, you better have somebody to run with, or at least pace you on that backside. So that's like my biggest advice for 100, because you're not going to be with anybody. Like, you will be alone for at least the backside of any given 100-miler.
Interesting. I got to ask you, when you to be in a situation like this, where obviously you set out with the goal of completing the race and you don't, what kind of mindset did that put you in? Did you ever go through those kind of failure stages, or did you think, I gave it my all, then I can at least learn from this and apply it to the next one?
Man, there's two sides to some of this. Like, yeah, I felt like, hey, I set out to do 100 and I fell short. But on the other side of it, I was like, if I fell, I'm screwed. Like, there's, some of the, like at Page, it was going to be a 50-foot fall onto a rock, ledge. And I'm running on a 2-foot or a foot trail, with a foot beside the trail before a cliff. And I was just not in the right mindset. I mean, maybe if I just sat and took a few minutes. And so I view it as a learning opportunity, in that, I'm going to take something out of this and try to figure it out better on the next one. And then I did and there was a lot of people at that Antelope Canyon race. So I didn't feel like it was necessarily a person thing or not having people around. And it was like a 10-mile loop with 5 miles of aid state. Every 5 miles was an aid station. So I felt like, okay, we've got people, just the trail didn't mesh with me. I didn't train it like at night at all. Mm-hmm. And that's something for 100 miles you don't ever think about. Even though you're going to be out there for 24 hours, you're like, okay. And then the other one, I was just like, I am not ready to go and do this again and by myself. So it was a learning thing on mine that I didn't know that I run better with other people. And even if I'm just pulling them along, like, that's totally fine. It's just, I needed somebody else to be there. And what is a solo sport? You need somebody to kind of carry you through that race or help you in some ways, or at least I did.
Interesting. You're giving me some food for thought there. It's like you said, you're running for 24 miles. You don't really think doing a lot of night training is going to be important, but that's going to play an integral role.
And tired night training, because you've already run 50 miles by the time night hits, and you've run for 12 to 14 hours probably at that point.
Interesting. So let's get into the entrepreneurship and the business side of things a little bit. I'm really curious to hear not only why you got into entrepreneurship, but also how has the fitness actually played a role in developing the business? You know, how has it helped as far as your overall mental health and so on and so forth?
Yeah, those are great questions. You can relate, I think, ultra probably more than anything else, or even marathon training, to business in a lot of ways. You know, like we've talked about, you're going to have ups and downs through business and life in general. And then it's how do you deal with them? You know, are you, even in your dark times, like in a race, putting one foot in front of the other? Same in business, right? Are you still getting up and doing the bare minimum? Maybe you're not crushing it on a daily basis, but you know, are you getting out of bed? Are you doing the right things? And as an entrepreneur, I mean, there's no one pushing you. You're it. You're the guy or gal that's having to get out of bed, having to set their own schedule, having to figure out all those pieces. And yeah, you can get coaches and that kind of stuff to help you through it, but ultimately you're responsible for what you're doing. There's really no two ways about it. So I can take a lot from, you know, the endurance sports and putting it in business. You know, you're going to get hit in the face, and it's just, can you take that next step forward? Can you keep pushing and going? You know, sometimes it might be at a walk, sometimes it might be at a sprint, but are you taking those steps forward? And, you know, for me, even a 20-30 minute run can clear, you know, a lot of funk out of your system. If you, I read recently by Chip Wilson, who's the founder of Lululemon, that 35 minutes of sustained heart rate, high heart rate. He doesn't say what that high heart rate is, but it's not a walk, let's put it that way, that you'll get into a flow state. And then that'll stay with you for, you know, 2 to 4 hours. So I think through my running and through a lot of exercise over the years, and I didn't maybe realize it at the time, it helped me to put in a lot of flow states. And, you know, at times I would run with music, and now I don't, or podcasts or anything like that. I run pretty much unplugged, if you will, from a lot of things. And that allows me to just work on, you know, for me and for Cowabunga Studios, like, what's our next product? How are we going to help people? How are we going to get to the next stage? What are we going to develop for our software to help engineers save time designing, you know, big commercial buildings? What is that ultimately going to look like? And on a run, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to this person, this person, this person. We're going to write a list of this, this, and this. Or, you know, it could be a swim or whatever else. But being out and having that fitness and consistently doing it has allowed me to kind of wash a lot of that maybe anxiety, angst of whatever I might be going through, and to help me problem solve what's next. But it's always in that, what can I do? Not, or who can I connect with? Not, why is this happening? Right? There's no woe is me in those. It's, all right, how do we move forward? Who do we need to talk to? What do we need to do? And how do we connect those pieces?
Beautiful. I think you touched on a few very important things there that I really hope anyone listening to this kind of points out. And again, you know, I don't care what field you're in, what it is that you're doing. If you have the brain fog, if you're got a bunch of ideas, you just can't get stuff down, even just going out on a brisk walk for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes you can allow yourself to clear your head, organize your thoughts, and put that back into your business. And that's why, you know, for me, I found once I finally got into fitness, it was the same type of thing where, you know, my mind normally does run 1,000 miles a minute. And, you know, I have all these ideas. I may not write them down, but if I go out on a run, you know, 10, 15 minutes into the run, it's almost as if all the thoughts organize themselves. And I'm like, okay, I know I need to do this. I need to do that. And it just puts me in a much better mood. So I really hope people take that away here, that what I try and push with fitness isn't just about general health. Now, that's a huge component of it, of course, but it's more than that. If you want to, you know, push your business a little bit further, if you've got writer's block and you're writing a book, go out for a little bit of a jog, a bike ride, something like that to clear your head, because there's a lot of benefits to it. And, physical fitness is more than just physical. It's mental and emotional health and well-being as well. So I'm really glad that you touched upon that. And where did the inspiration for the Cowabunga Studios come from?
Yeah, in 2013, end of 2013, 14, I was working with a group of guys in an architecture firm, and we were doing development on the Oculus Rift at that point. So it's that VR headset. We were one of the first companies to get it was development kit 2, so it was like they're actually good functioning. I think the DK1 kind of was not what everyone expected. So this was like their first real commercial release of a product, and you had to sign up for it or, pay out the wazoo for one on eBay type of deal. So we were putting architectural models, building models into the Rift. And through that, I learned, there's a lot more to the software and programs that we were using to design buildings than most people were even accessing. It's kind of like Excel. You might be able to put in a few formulas, put a spreadsheet together, but like all the back end, super high end, like accounting and statistics and all this other stuff that like Excel has, our software had to, that we were using to design buildings. And you could access a lot of like the back end APIs and software to build on top of it. The firm that I worked for didn't want to do anything. And I was just like, here's an idea. We just need to hire somebody to, make this happen. And nobody took me up on it. Fast forward 2 years later, finally hired a developer, said, hey, here's what I want. This is how it needs to work and function. And they built it for me. It was clunky, but it worked. It was a proof of concept. And it wasn't something that I sold, but I was like, okay, I've got something here. We can make something happen of it. Hired another developer to take it to the next level. And then from there has been kind of what Cowabunga Studios is. And once that was kind of done, I was about that time, I left my job, moved across the country to be with my girlfriend now, wife. So that was, the big transition. But Cowabunga Studios really started working on VR for engineering so that owners of buildings could see what they're going to do, not in a two-dimensional form, but in 3 dimensions.
Wow. Well, I really applaud you for that, for recognizing what needed some development and taking the action to kind of put that in your own hands and take the steps needed to do that. Because I think that's where a lot of people fall short, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, is there's a lot of people who have good ideas of, hey, I can make this process better or make it easier and more convenient for people. But if they get that like initial shoot down where they say, no, we just can't do that, they kind of bottle up and that's the last you ever hear from it. And it's really taking those action steps. And that's very, very important. So I applaud you for taking those steps. And I'm actually kind of curious to dive into that a little bit more. What kind of action steps did you take in particular from that moment of the previous firm saying no to, okay, I can really take this in my own hands? What did that kind of process look like for you?
I've had a lot of conversations with other founders or people that are looking to get into the entrepreneur space. It's become kind of a sexy kind of thing. You see all these people getting venture money and, and I didn't take that route at all. I'm self-funded. I own 100%, didn't divest at all. And with a lot of the people that want to go into entrepreneurship, I'm like, what do you want to do? What's your idea? And either one, they don't have it. It's not clear. They don't know. Or two, they might be clear, but if somebody says no, they're not going to continue. So a true founder, I had that idea in 2014. I didn't really do anything with it till 2016. And then it took, 2-3 years of development of my own funding, over time as I could afford it to develop the product out. So it's not like this is I just thought of it this weekend and created something. This idea has been with me for a long time. And, ultimately, while we are automating electrical design today, our goal is I want to save 1 billion hours annually in construction. Construction is, and really for me, the biggest catalyst in leaving my job was I got super stressed and 2 days before I was supposed to go on vacation to Hawaii and Maui, I got shingles. Have you ever had shingles?
Yeah, that's a nasty, painful memory for me.
Me too. So here I am 2 days before getting on a plane to go on vacation, find out I have shingles, and like it's on my chest and back. And I found out maybe like 3 days into vacation that it was a stress triggered thing. Like I wasn't around little kids that had chickenpox, and I was like, okay, so here I am sitting on the beach, can't have a beer because you're on antivirals, with ibuprofen and whatever else to try to numb you a little bit so it's not as painful. And just like, this can't happen for anything else, which, I mean, that's really where the name Cowabunga Studios came from. All my products are water motif, like surfboards are, flagship product. So for me, and for really in any founder, you need to have a big reason why. You need to be fairly well married to your idea. Like ultimately I want to save time, reduce stress, increase productivity, the livelihood of engineers. Construction industry is one of the top industries for suicide rates across like everybody. It's seasonal. So, for me and helping the industry move forward, I think saving time, making them more efficient, and especially on the design side, then on construction, is to reduce like the pain of bending over, being looking up at the ceiling or whatever it is that your job might entail. And that'll help them to be not only safer, but last longer in the industry, and then not have all the problems that come with, physical labor for long periods of time and really odd positions. So that's the biggest thing I could say to a founder is you better love the mission that you're on and married to it, and not let anybody else get in your way. If somebody can, you're going to be a great number two, but you're not a number one.
Wow, I love that. And there's a few topics you kind of hit there, which hit close to home with me. And I like how you said it, it's kind of the entrepreneurship is the sexy thing nowadays. It seems, as much as I love all the names I'm about to list off, Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Tom Bilyeu, Lewis Howes, all these guys that encourage the entrepreneurship, which I think is great. I think a lot of people do have good ideas that, can help serve others. But at the same point, I think it's become such a fad nowadays that everybody thinks they're going to be in entrepreneurship, but they don't want to put in the hours it's going to take to get there. They want the fancy title of saying, hey, I started my own business, but they don't really realize that, you might be sad working at 40 hours at your job right now, but you're probably going to have to put in 60, 70, 80, 100-hour weeks if you really want to get your business off the ground. And I think something very important that I took away from what you said there is your whole reason why you were doing it was service to others. You wanted to try and make things more convenient for others. You wanted to try and streamline the process. And I think that's another very important thing for anybody, no matter what business you're getting into, is, I think everyone wants the money. They want the financial freedom, but the primary focal point should always be service to others. We always spend time working on ourselves, working on self-mastery, but it should always be in service to others. We should have some bigger purpose or reason why behind what we're doing. So I really commend you for that, because, you could have very easily taken the route, said, I wanted to do this because I wanted to buy 3 houses, 4 cars. I've always wanted this financial freedom. But everything you just said there was strictly to try and help others. And I think that's very, very important, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. So I commend you quite a bit for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and not to say that material things aren't important, sure, but yeah, you got to have the mission to go behind it. And the other thing I will just add real quick is it's not only those 100-hour weeks, but it's 100-hour weeks for, a year, 2 years, and not getting paid. You got to be okay with that.
And it's like you said, and this is where I find an interview like this just so incredible, because we go from the ultra running into business, and there's just so many parallels that you can take, not only put one foot in front of the other, but if you're going out on a 100-mile race and you start off sprinting thinking you're going to get there quicker, you're going to die much quicker, and you don't realize that it's the long game you have to play. You have to play it smart. There's going to be a lot of suffering that you go through. There's going to be a lot of pain that you experience. But if you can put up with that, you know what's on the other side of that pain and suffering. And that's where I really think that physical fitness offers tremendous benefits to everyone, is when you can voluntarily choose to go through pain and suffering like this. There's so many life lessons that you can learn by doing that, that when you come across, even not from a business standpoint, let's just take small daily stresses. The person wakes up out of bed, the old adage, they stub their toe and their whole day's ruined. They start cursing the world. Then they, cut themselves brushing their teeth, and it just cycles down the rest of the day. Well, if you get into the habit of doing intense physical exercise and pushing yourself through things, you get to a point where something small like that happens and you just brush it off. And I think that's very, very important for people to take away. So, Dillon, what I want to do here, at the end of all my interviews, I do like to do a 10-question rapid fire. But before we get into that, let people know, where can they find you? Are you on social media? And where can they get in touch with you if you need it?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin, for having me. And if you'd like to follow me on my journey, I'll be like Kevin here in the next year, trying to find a 100-mile race once we're back and active, and we can really go outside. Luckily, I live in the mountains, so it's you'll see some pretty cool stuff. So you can follow me on Instagram at Dillon A. Mitchell, Dillon A. Mitchell, Mitchell. If you're interested in construction and productivity and all that good stuff, Cowabunga Studios, you can follow us on Instagram, or our website, cowabungastudios.com. Be happy to share.
Beautiful. And yeah, I'm excited to watch your journey as well to the 100 miles. We both have a little bit of a different environment. I'm doing mine in South Florida, where it's just going to be flat, but it's going to be hot and humid. So I'm curious to see how it goes, but excited at the same time. All right, so we're going to get into the rapid fire questions here. First 5 questions are just going to be a this or that. Last 5 questions are going to be just the first thing that comes to you. Again, it can be a couple word answer. You can go in detail on it, whatever you feel most comfortable with, okay?
Perfect.
All right, let's start here. Mac or PC?
PC.
Book or audiobook?
Both. I do audio in the car, and I read physical books every day.
Podcasts or music?
Podcast.
City or country?
Country, especially during Corona.
Bungee jumping or skydiving?
Neither.
Ooh. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh. Like the little details. So like the little things that people, may or may not do. It's, do you, like in the bathroom, do you wipe the toilet seat, with the little pee driblets, or do you close all the cabinets, or so it's like the little details that don't take a lot of effort, but that people just don't do. It's probably one of my bigger pet peeves.
I understand that all too well. What is your favorite quote?
Ooh, I don't know if I have one off the top of my head, and maybe it's more of a speech. I don't know it verbatim, but the Man in the Arena speech by Teddy Roosevelt. It's not the man in the stands that matters. It's the man in the arena, the guy that's getting bloodied, the guy that's taking the hits, the guy that's actually doing something that matters. It's not the crowd. It's the man in the arena.
I love that one. What's the best piece of advice that's ever been given to you?
So I'll do a story for this one. Growing up as a kid, lived on a farm, and we had cattle. So I did 4-H and all that good stuff too. With that, you've got to, halter break cows. So here I am, 8 years old, and you have no chance against the animal that's, I weighed 100 pounds soaking wet, and, animal's 600 pounds. Like you're not going to win. But I remember my mom saying, like, don't let go. And we go out in the pasture, and cow takes back off towards the barn. I'm, 8 years old, holding on to the halter, just like, and you just don't let go. And that has translated so well through life. You don't let go.
Wow, I really like that. And it's pretty incredible how sometimes those small little sentiments as a kid can stick with us our entire life. So thank you for sharing that. If you were to pick a celebrity to play you in a movie, who would it be?
Man, celebrity to play me in a movie. I mean, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Mask. So, I mean, I really love Jim Carrey and even what he's done here kind of later in his career and the openness of him. So that would probably be one of my favorites. I don't know if he could run 100 miles, but
we could CGI that in for him. All right. Now the tough one here, this is the one most people struggle with. In 10 words or less, let's say you're dead and gone. You have no legacy, nothing you can leave behind other than 10 words or less. What would they be?
Work hard, do good, be kind.
Simple and beautiful. I like that. All right, Dillon, I really appreciate you being a guest on my show today. And again, everyone, make sure you do go follow him, Dillon A. Mitchell, on Instagram. You can also follow him at Cowabunga Studios as well, and his website, cowabungastudios.com. Dillon, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Really enjoy the conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being here and listening to another interview and episode of Purpose Through Fitness. I am truly humbled and blessed that every time somebody listens to something that I do, and doing this research and providing this information to you has become one of the greatest pleasures in my life. As you know, I always love to leave off in a Bible verse that I find applicable to today's lesson, and with Dillon's journey, I am reminded of Mark chapter 8, verse 36. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? You see, oftentimes it seems a lot of us are chasing material things, that new house, the bigger house, a new car, fancy jewelry, fancy clothes, that multi-million dollars. We all want that rich, luxurious lifestyle, and we tend to lose focus on the important things in life. We tend to lose focus on what really matters. And what really matters is living a life in service to others, helping those less fortunate than yourself, giving back. You see, Dillon could have taken a very easy path of starting a business with the sole purpose of making an obscene amount of money, getting all the fancy items that he wanted, but no, his focal point and the forefront of his mind was always to help serve others, to make a process more efficient and easier for the end users, for the sole purpose of helping people. This is very important to remember, not only in business, but in life in general. You see, a lot of us may be in unfortunate circumstances, but if we compare to someone else, we may not have it as bad as some others do. And we can always give back in some way, shape, or form. Now, some of you out there, maybe you're a multimillionaire and giving back is giving millions to charity, or using your power and network to raise awareness for a specific issue. If you're not as wealthy and you don't have much you can physically give, a simple smile or compliment to a stranger can do the trick. So I want you to remember, as you go about your day, as you go about your week ahead, look for opportunities to give back. Look for an opportunity for you to take something and make another person's day. Buy someone's groceries. Give a smile. Tell someone they look nice. You like their hair. Their clothes look great. You like their shoes, whatever it may be. A small, simple gesture of gratitude and kindness goes a long way. And if each and every one of us can take the opportunity to do that, we could create a wave of positive energy and gratitude across the entire globe. And that, to me, is how we can combat the evil that is so rampant today. I hope you all have a beautiful and blessed day. Enjoy your week ahead. Stay safe. Tell those that you love them. And we'll see you guys next week. Many blessings to you all.